Hey there, Momo here with a quick rundown of NFT Alerts. I'm going to talk about why I made it, how it works, and how I use it. This tool is in beta, and it is the result of my own perspective and how I look at projects and the kinds of things that I want to see. So there's not a super strong system behind any of this except for the way that I like to look at things. So I guess I'm the best one to explain how this stuff works. So the reason that I made NFT alerts is because I think that it's better to track groups of wallets instead of individuals. That's kind of how this high ROI wallets and burner wallets mint sections have worked over the past few months, where it's nice to see if one high ROI wallet is minting something, but it's just not quite enough. They're high ROI, but they're not infallible, and they still miss sometimes. We can see that we've seen over the months that there's plenty of projects that one of these wallets will mint that ends up doing nothing, and that's fine if you're a high ROI trader and you're making a ton of ETH per week and you have a lot of ETH to burn, and it's okay for you to eat losses. But if you are a little more loss averse or want to keep your EV high, you can't afford to eat all of these losses all the time, randomly trying to follow every single one of these random mints that some of these people like Butter will just throw ETH at every now and then. So one of the signals here is that when we see like different wallet names, which I've given them all nicknames, when we see them all minting something, it's a better signal, but that's still not reliable enough, which is why I created this whole system. So NFT alerts, instead of tracking single wallets, it tracks groups of wallets basically. So I have these different groups made, like ROI, which is kind of like the high ROI wallets. We've got Momentum, which is the Momentum Alpha group thing by Sneaky Ninja Pants. We've got Underground and a couple of other groups. We have Alert Weller, which is a grouping of Weller ranked wallets, which are they've got high ROI, and on the official dashboard, I'm not going to dive into all that stuff. It has like strike rates and how often they are profitably minting stuff. So basically, I'm pulling wallets from Weller who have high ROI and a high hit rate, so they don't miss that often. I'm adding them to the Weller list, and we get an alert when a number of wallets from one of these groups, I say interacted with, but these really are mints. The reason I say interacted with is because of the nature of how this stuff is tracked. It's not only seeing mints, sometimes it's seeing other things like staking and ETH transfers and whatever. That will improve over time, but right now it's just showing contracts that these wallet groups are interacting with. Yeah, that's basically the purpose of it. So with the same idea in mind of tracking individual wallets, tracking groups of wallets from a single grouping gives me a little bit more confidence in whatever's minting. It doesn't really mean much if one wallet from Sneaky Ninja Pants group, and I still don't know how I feel about Momentum yet, but it doesn't mean much if only one wallet mints something. But if 10 wallets or 25 wallets from that group is minting something, that's significant to me, and it's at least worth looking at and might be worth following in behind. And to provide some context to that idea, something that I've been thinking about over time of watching projects, watching charts, and how they perform is that the quality of the wallets holding the project is really important to me. It's because certain holders and types of holders, and high ROI holders specifically, which is something else, I'll talk about that in a minute, but the quality of holders is really important to me, because even if a project is going to dip after the mint or whatever, certain types of holders, like if you basically like experienced versus inexperienced, or high ROI versus not, versus low ROI, or people who lose a lot, there's a big difference in those people. And if a bunch of newbies are the only people interacting with a contract or a project, it's probably more likely to dump than something where a lot of experienced traders are in on a project. They are probably, I'll go light on the maybes and probablys here, but basically, not NFA and all that stuff. good holders are less likely to dump and panic and take losses, and that's just a base fact. So if a lot of high quality holders are holding a project, that's really interesting to me and gives me more confidence in the project, because for one, they're high ROI, so they've been kind of statistically proven not to just dump things at a loss. Granted, those stats aren't perfect, but that's one thing. And second, these are different alpha groups, and they spend all day analyzing projects and talking about things and finding things. And with that in mind, I'm busy, obviously doing this full time, but I like to do other things like work on projects and tools and building and all that fun stuff. And when you're really busy doing all that, you are not so busy just diving into every single project and doing deep analysis and figuring out what they meant, which has been especially a little less effective during this bear market. So number one, I like to let these high ROI wallets give me more confidence that the project isn't going to be dumped. And number two, I'm letting these groups kind of do the research for me. This is something that came to mind when mirroring was really popular. It still is a thing. It's just not, everybody's not talking about it now, but there are still some good mirror sources out there. But basically, I dug into all the mirrors and looked at every alpha server, Bored Apes Alpha, Azuki Alpha, and all these random groups, Chance, Plug Pass, Anonymous, like, you name it. I've looked in Proof, I've looked at all of them. And my conclusion was that there was really nothing magical or there's no secret insights or anything going on in there. It's just people doing exactly what we do and looking at projects and analyzing them together and deciding what to mint. So instead of trying to track all of these chat channels across projects and figure out what people are saying they're gonna mint and whatever, I just skip all the chats because I've found that to not be super useful. Instead, I just go to the source. I don't care what you say you're doing. I just care what you're doing, which is minting the project or not. That's what's really important. So this cuts through all the crap and goes straight to the source. And I'm tracking across these groups who's minting what. And that's the whole premise behind all of this. And what you do with that information is up to you. This isn't a perfect system. I wouldn't say it's anything's a super no-brainer, except for this one thing that I said was a no-brainer. Well, let's go find it. It's up here somewhere. But the reason that it was a no-brainer was because, here we go. It's a no-brainer. And the reason it's a no-brainer is because this group, this is just Butter, so it's himself minting on all his burners, minted 10. My ROI group minted 5 or more. They only got 5. Underground minted 25. Oh, actually, ROI minted 10. It just, there's a, if 10 get minted right away, it still fires the lower alerts, which is, I might get it fixed. It's not high priority, but so it kind of spams the alerts a little bit if it happens really fast. But 10 minted from ROI, 25 minted from Underground, Momentum minted some. And as soon as I see all of these, even at the base alert up here, which is where we started minting just after these alerts, the reason that you started to see people from here mint is because Underground minted, Momentum minted. I guess that was actually it, just 2 groups. But we just saw it going up. These different groups were minting in increasing amounts. This is actually a different contract here. We're looking at 1234D though. They just all started minting. So we started minting too because it's a free mint. So when you see this many wallets from different groups minting a free mint, probably, I don't know, I just take a flyer on it. It's probably, what's the worst that's gonna happen? You're gonna lose point. It depends on gas, but if if gas isn't crazy, if it's under 30, I'm just gonna let it rip because I'm gonna lose 0.002 or something ETH if it just goes to 0. But these groups minting gives me higher confidence, and I just figure it's worth a YOLO. That's the idea behind this, is that if we see a bunch of wallets from different groups all minting something, we know the holder quality is high. And an upgrade that I'm considering with this, I'm crushing through all my API credits right now, but to just add more groups. So I'm focusing on trading groups because just blue chips doesn't really mean much. It just means somebody who got lucky or just has deep pockets, but it doesn't mean that they're a good trader. And that's something I'm really focusing on here. All of my wallets, I run through a multi-step curation process where I'm checking the activity of the wallets. So I'm looking for active traders. I don't really care to track wallets who, yeah, they made 100 ETH this month, but it's only because they sold 2 apes and then they just take losses on everything else. Don't really care about them. I care about people who are actively trading and making a profit, and they go through that filter before being added to one of my lists. So that's another factor of this, but I do plan to add other prominent groups. I actually have an influencer group, which this is kind of interesting to see, is that it's actually never pinged. These Twitter influencers are, at least in terms of minting, because this is only tracking mints, those influencers are never registered. I haven't even seen a base alert from 2 influencers minting. So they are not as in the loop, at least in things that are time sensitive. They're not as in the loop as these trading groups and people who are like full-time traders and making profits. But I do want to add like other groups like that so we can just have a better picture of what's going on. So we'll know if, obviously influencers are being tracked, but tracking other like prominent groups like Proof and maybe even like Bored Apes and Azuki. I'm a little hesitant on starting to track them because of all the aforementioned reasons, but that's what's in mind here. So hopefully this has been useful. I know it's a little bit rambly, but I wanted to give a more clear picture on what's going on in my head as I look through these things and why I set it up this way. I've got a lot of upgrades in mind of things like simple things like pulling in the contract information. We have a little placeholder here, and adding in like the contract name and what the mint function is, maybe scraping price and max mint. It's a little hard to do that stuff because every contract writes it differently. There's not like a standard to follow, but that's something that's in mind. More important, in terms of near-term updates, I'm thinking of adding trading alerts. So similar to this, it would probably go in a new channel for NFT trade alerts, and exactly the same format where if Underground is all buying on secondary on any marketplace, X2, Y2, Gem, Blur, whatever, it will add to the count similar to this and fire off an alert when we hit a threshold. So instead of only tracking mints, I think this is where the influencer tracking would come a little bit more in handy, is that when 5 influencers are all buying a project on secondary, we'll get an alert. Because same idea as tracking individual wallets, single influencers don't carry much weight on their own, I think. Like, sure, they'll often bring a pump right after them after they buy, but aside from that, it usually just falls right back down. But if 10 influencers are all buying something on secondary, that is something that I want to know, and maybe that will influence a decision of mine. Or if Underground is all sweeping something, it'd be handy to know that they're all buying on secondary regardless of marketplace. So that's a near-term update that I'm looking on. It's much more, it's more complicated than the way that these alerts work, so it's a bit up the road, and my poll said nobody really cares about that, but I think that you guys will care about that. I think that'll be a really big and useful upgrade. Looking through Weller and their high ROI wallets, it was about like a Pareto principle, like 20% of their tracked wallets are minting things, and the other 80% are actually buying stuff on secondary. So that would just be really interesting to see. And if I saw like a number of groups, or even maybe one group, starting to sweep something on secondary, and we can look at a chart and see that it's down and maybe it's been out for a few days, it might be a good point to buy right before it goes up for whatever news is being swept in advance on. And that could be interesting too. There's a lot of interesting insights to come from that. So that's what's in the future here, and I guess a super duper fast how to. So what do you do when you get an alert? Well, what I do, let's just do what I do. So when I see an alert, I pretty much click immediately Etherscan and degen mint if it's like a very fresh alert. Like obviously this one is an hour and a half old, so at this point we skip these. I mean, you can still go to degen mint. Let's pop that open, and we will see at least degen mint, like what they see, and it's kind of useful to. I like the UI of this. This is only showing minters, but we can just see notable groups that minted, which is like pretty much nobody. Why did this alert fire? Oh, it's a ROI group. So this is individually curated wallets, not from a specific token holding group, which is why it's ROI alert and not a group name. But yeah, I clicked degen mint just to get a quick idea of, like, it pulls max supply, which is harder to get on Etherscan. But I also go to Etherscan. I just open both of them. If I'm just gonna mint right away, like if it's moving fast and if we're getting a bunch of alerts, kind of like the one the other day, I'll just go straight to Etherscan. And this is gonna be a little trickier because it's already sold out. I'll do it on an active mint just to show you what it looks like, because it's a little bit more useful. Here's something that's minting right now. So we'll go to that contract. So pretend like I just clicked this from the alerts. I just clicked Etherscan and I ended up on this page. So we see that all these mints are happening 19 seconds ago. So what I'll do is I'll open the contract in another tab. So we've got that loading over here, and then I'll click one of these successful mint transactions. And even like glancing over here, I can see that they're all minting to this same address, and I see a number of tokens getting minted. It looks like it's probably 10 tokens. We have 1396 up to 1405. I think that's 10 or it's 9. Could just count them, I guess. But no, it's 10. 10 transfers found. So they just minted 10 tokens, as we see, for a cost of 0.0005. And that's it. We can click down here, and this is what I do: is I go here and I just check out what happened, and it's just the mint at 10. Oftentimes when it's that simple, it ends up being a scam, and they're doing like this really straightforward mint function just to get it trending on tools and get people to click to the website. We're gonna ignore all that though and just assume that this is legit, even though it didn't ping on my alerts, and my alerts don't tend to ping on scams because these groups are doing all the DD for us, which is nice, due diligence. But so it's a mint amount for 10. So if I wanted to go mint this, I actually opened the contract over here. We go to write contract, we go to mint 0.0005, and then for 10, and I connect the wallet really fast, and then we mint it. And this should be a successful, like, this is how you mint. So that's the process. If I wanted to mint on one wallet, I check out, I find a successful mint. We can actually see over here that 0.0005 for 10. So I guess this is for like 20 or something. Yeah, so we see 20 for 0.001. So this is kind of a crappy, cheap project. But that's how I look at this stuff. I just click to a successful mint, and usually if the mint is flying, like we see people are paying different amounts for this. If it's flying, people will kind of all be doing the same thing, especially if it's one per wallet. Now we see this mint is picking up. Maybe we can find another. So this Jungle Vibes one it's like an unlimited mint, but this is more normal, and this actually pinged earlier. A bunch of the watch groups were all minting this all at the same time for whatever reason. It got alpha call, whatever it is. But this is just a mint for one token, and we see that it's just a mint function down here. So this is like, oops, this one's super straightforward and more normal. What we see that it costs 0. And we also see how much gas was used, which is something that I'll consider if I'm gonna bot it. If it's using a lot of gas and I'm not super confident about it, I might not mint, just because I bought with 10 wallets, and if it's like 0.012 in gas, like I don't know if I want to pay 0.12 for a bunch of tokens unless I feel fairly confident about it. But yeah, that's how this stuff works. So when something's minting, I just click over to Etherscan real fast. When this one's not relevant, it's an ENS thing. So if you see something that's not relevant, just go emoji react and X. And I will manually blacklist these contracts that shouldn't be being tracked. Just happens sometimes. But yeah, I just click, I click the Etherscan, and then I see if sometimes it's a pre-sell mint. This is all pre-sell, so I can't mint anyways, but this is nice to know. We see that momentum, and what is this? This is E86A. So E86A, it's pretty much, we have Momentum minting it. I thought Underground might have been minting it too. Yeah, here's Underground minting it. So we have 10 wallets over there. So nothing too crazy. That's only 20 wallets between Underground and Momentum who have minted Asian Disappointments. And they might have even sold, I don't know. And one gap we have is we don't know if those groups are buying on secondary, which would be interesting to know. If I saw 50 of their wallets buying on secondary, I might FOMO a couple. But we don't have that data yet. But yeah, that's how this stuff works. I think that's pretty comprehensive. If you have any questions about this, just let me know. Happy to dive into more detail. It's a work in progress. There are constantly updates happening. Got all these handy links so you can do your own research on any of these alerts on the platform of your choice. And yeah, I'm here if you have any questions. Just give me a ping, or you can leave feedback in the NFT Alerts feedback channel. And that's all. Good luck.